Hello, so today we're going to look at some designs, and this is part two of the videos I am subjecting you to watch, so you are forced to hear my voice for at least the next 5 to 10 minutes. Anyway, we're going to be looking at these designs today, and talking about what's good and what makes them good, and we're going to look at some drafts, and we're going to talk about what we can improve upon with them. And the purpose of this isn't to say, oh yeah, look at what all these people did wrong, and they suck. No, it's not that. It's to show people what to look for in a design and how to take your design from being a draft to being a final. All right, so these have all won national awards. That's all. Let's look at this. The first thing about this layout that I think makes it really good is the hierarchy. So you first look at it, it has a hierarchy in the photos. This photo right here is bigger than this one, is bigger than this one, is bigger than these two. It has a good hierarchy to it, and it also has a sense of unity with the fonts. So we always use consistent fonts, and this is why. Because you see, they do their captions the same. So this caption is the same as this, is the same as this. So it has a unity and pattern within the caption. If you kind of like take a step back and blur your eyes a little bit, you're gonna see it has a balance to it, right? So this is more downward, this is more upward. Kind of like Kate's layout right here. So down and up, down and up. And it has a balance to it. It has hierarchy and it has consistency. And that's really what makes this good. Let's look at this. So this is different from the layouts that we do because this relies more on illustration, although I wish ours did. So what makes this good is it has a very interesting, strong visual. So when you guys are planning out your layouts, you are allowed to say, okay, I want a picture of this. You can't just say, okay, a graphic goes here. You're going to say a graphic of this goes in this spot. And when we do design on the Eagle Eye, what a lot of people tend to do, if you go back to an older issue, where are the editorials? Right here. Is just do, okay, here's a graphic, here's the headline, here's a story. And this is boring. So look at this right here versus this. Do you see how this one uses the graphic and it integrates the text into the graphic? Whereas where is it? This just has, it has just a photo and it has pictures and it doesn't really have anything interesting to it. So that's something that makes this very cool. But I mean, we don't necessarily have to do that using photos or graphics in the background, but just know that creativity like that is an option, and it is always good to look at references. But also, it has contrasting colors. It has green and orange, which orange, the opposite is blue, green, the opposite is pink. But these are similar enough. They kind of look like the University of Miami colors now that I'm saying that. But they're contrasting with one another. You have a cool color and a warm color. And then you have consistency, right? And it plays into the theme that's going on here. And overall, this is a great layout. But you also have this little bit peeking off the edge. And that also makes it good because it adds a slight element of asymmetry to this really boxed in design. It's kind of this is similar, where like it's dynamic. So these two elements play with one another. This is looped in and this is over the page. So instead of just having like over the picture or not over the picture, over, not over, the elements kind of like play with one another. They intertwine, and I really think that's something that makes design interesting because it adds that little bit of edge that just gives your design another element. Anyways, this is Travis's layout, and this is my first time using Illustrator. This is for my sophomore year. So, this design right here is good because it has that sense of unity and pattern by having the same style repeating over and over and over again with this nice little infographic. And it also has hierarchy. Now, these two pages don't like interact with each other in the way that I'd like them to, but then again, I'm way more critical of this because I've looked at it a million times. So things like this is what I feel like we should be aiming more for in the Eagle Eye. So the other two designs I showed you were kind of out there, but this one I feel like is something that we definitely could integrate, more so this side than this side. But let's just begin with what initially makes this design good. So first of all, like all the others, it has consistency and it has contrasting colors and it has emphasis on the colors. But what I really like about it is these over here. So these are interesting ways of showing infographics. This is a little meter and this is a little loop. So this loop and this are essentially the same, but instead of having a little bit of blue here like they did on this side, they have a pointer. And I feel like that contrast, that difference, kind of gives it a bit of an edge. And then here, the use of graphics, how their feet are kind of filling up, also gives this design something more interesting to look at. So like in our designs, you have 3 pie charts, but maybe for something like this, we could have improved it by doing like, I don't know what this is about, how much classwork Okay, so maybe we could have made one of these into like a clock, and like these could have been hands on the clock, or we could have done a student with a book open, and we could have it fill up like this. Or you want to get creative ideas from looking at things like this, because if you like after you do a lot of design, you're going to create a mental library basically in your head of all of these things. And when you need to make a design, you'll think, okay, I'll just do this because you've done it before. But when you're like new to design, it's very beneficial to look at other people's designs. But anyway, so that's going to give you ideas. So if I look at this, I might go, okay, well, this is actually adaptable to something that we are going to do. So let's try something similar, because it's inspirational like that. This one, I like this a lot. This is a more newsy looking layout. So these colors play nicely with one another. They're both like light hues, and it contrasts against the darker tones of the text, right? But you look at this and it's aligned very, very well. Like you say, okay, like this is aligned very nicely. These are all lined up. It looks like boxy and they're all going the same way. But then you have this dynamic graphic element. And this is like the type of thing that I'm looking for when you guys submit design sketches to me. Like, I don't want anything detailed in your sketch, but if you had an idea for something like this, some sort of interesting element that would be relevant to your design, then that really takes it from like something average to something extraordinary. But then also the white space on here gives us breathing room. So it's not just like where is issue? It's not just all cramped in the page, like the editorials were here. I want to go back to this for a minute. All right, it's not just all cramped in the page. Like this, we had to make this graphic smaller. Like this looks like it's suffocating under this, or I guess on top of that. But this has nice breathing room. It has lines flowing this way and lines flowing that way, which gives it movement. And then this element also gives it a good sense of movement. And it exemplifies consistency while still having enough variety to make it engaging. And that's really what you're looking for. Something consistent enough to be neat and different enough to be interesting. Which is something that I feel like we lack sometimes. All right, so I want to look at this now. This is a design that Jessie made, and Jessie is one of the hardest working people we have on staff, and she's one of the best people I've worked with on the Eagle Eye, and she is really great. But she is just learning design. She did just start this year. So I want to look at this because I think that this layout is just a great example of a pretty good layout. Like, it has the right idea, and it's an example of a pretty good layout that could just use some improvement. So I made a video actually of me editing this for Grace because I was going to show her my process. I closed it. But anyway, I think it's a really good example because if you look at these, why is there a pink line? Oh, because I highlighted it. Okay, if you look at these, they're not really that different. Like I changed a few things, I moved some things around. So here, if you look at this, you're gonna see that these are very close together. This needs more breathing room, so I had to adjust the lighting on this. These are aligned nicely. She did a good job with that. The pie charts, she also did a great job. I made them a little smaller because our paper is huge, but she did a great job with the pie charts. But you can see that this text is too close to the edges. You always want to give text breathing room. If you look at any of these designs here, they don't, I mean, ours does because it's a mess, but they don't put text too close to the edges. They all have like some sort of space around them. You see, nothing's here. This is very close to the edges of this, and these are very close to one another. It also needs some more consistency and spacing. So this box goes to here, this goes to here, this goes to here. So I made them all line up on the same line. Now this text actually aligns with the box, not with this text, but it still creates that same sense of rhythm to it. I also changed the colors, but that's just because I like these colors better. That wasn't like something that she did wrong. That was just my opinion personally. But yeah. So, and it has like the space. So I used the space better and I made things a little bit bigger and I moved it around to give it more of a sense of movement. So this looks good. It doesn't quite have the sense of movement and it needs some alignment help. But really, if you look at this, I didn't change all that much. Like I did this pretty quickly. But anyway, I think that's all I have for now. So the key takeaway from this video is just when you're creating a layout, you want to make sure that you're using the elements of design in a way that follow the principles. You want to check your own work, basically. So you finished it, and now let's edit it. You want to think, okay, is this something that we're going to print? Like, yes, like this is something we're going to print, but is this layout as is something we're going to print? No, it needs some editing. Okay, well, what editing does it need? Like, I got rid of this altogether, but I would have made this bigger, kind of like this to exemplify contrast. So you want to just make sure that your things conform with that and that they're also aligned. So like this isn't aligned properly, but these ones are. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, happy designing.